I had some connection problems
Oh,
yesterday.
yeah, no, it sounds really good. Okay, all
Oh,
right.
great.
Well, welcome everybody. Hi, my name is Lisa, and I'm one of the English teachers here on Verbling.com. And in this hour, we're going to be having a reading class. The article, I put the link to the article over in the Verbling chat, so if you guys want to open that, you can. If you have a reservation for this class, then of course you can use that now. If you don't have a reservation and you want to join us to read and to discuss this topic, then you can, as soon as you see the join class button. You can join a class anytime if you are a Verbling member, or if you have some tickets. There's a couple of different ways that you can take classes here on Verbling. We have English classes every day of the week, 24 hours a day. Sometimes we have 1, 2, or 3 classes going at the same time. So you get to look ahead at the schedule and see what fits your schedule, what type of classes you want to take, who you want to talk with, that type of thing. So we have lots of flexibility here. So, Chow, let's talk a little bit while we're waiting for other people to join us. There were some reservations, so we'll see who shows up. How have you been?
Sure. I'm doing great. Well, even though I catch a cold, but
Oh,
I feel better now.
you had a
I,
cold?
yeah, I had a cold. I moved to a new apartment,
Uh-huh.
using a new internet.
Uh-huh.
Still busy on study, preparing for the exam, which will come in 3 months. But in these 3 months, I have to study every day, maybe over 10 hours. So
Oh my gosh, wow.
it's a tough time for me. But
Yeah.
anyway, there will be a good payoff maybe in the future.
Yeah. So what is the test that you're going to take?
Well, it's kind of, in the United States, if you want to get a postgraduate
Okay.
study, like
Yeah.
to get a master degree,
Uh,
you have to submit and to your documents to a university and
Right.
wait for the result. But in
Okay.
China, we have a standard exam that
Uh-huh.
you have to take an exam including the math and for me it's economics,
Oh,
and
okay.
the thing is including the politics, including some
Wow.
mar Marxism and Maoism, communism. That things
Oh,
is the
wow.
I don't know. Yeah,
Yeah. Wow. So you have a lot of things to
a
remember.
lot of things to do. Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
I
So,
feel happy when I was in Verbling class. It's
yeah.
I think
Nice.
it's time for
Relaxed.
yeah.
It's not so intense. Yeah. Good. Okay, well, I'm glad to see you. I was glad to hear that you got your scholarship that you were wanting to get also. So that's awesome.
Yeah,
The
thank you.
one I don't know what it was for exactly though.
Oh, that one uh, is I think it's 2 months ago for
Okay.
the economic summit, and I share some
Oh, that
picture.
and then you
Is
went. Oh,
Mhm. For me, participating in Verbling class is also a relaxing activity. I
okay. Well, that was a shocker. You just went out. Okay, can you guys hear me okay?
yes, yes, now I
Okay.
can hear you.
Yeah, good. All of a sudden it was just like gone. Okay. Well, let's try this again. And there's two of me in here, so hopefully that one can drop out. Let's see if I can kick it out. And I can't kick it out. There, I'm going to kick it out there. Um, okay. So here's the article. Hi, Alex. Welcome.
Hello, hi Lisa. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you doing?
I'm
I'm trying
fine.
to get this Google Hangout to work here. I'm going to trying to get the screen share going. There we go. Okay, so um, I took another article from this website, Quartz. It's kind of an interesting website here. I thought it was related to Harvard somehow, but now I'm not seeing that here. It's a interesting website because as you scroll down, it just gives you more and more different articles, but it uses this, I think it's maybe can't remember the name of this type of website, but it's pretty cool. It has lots of pictures, and so I took the text and we put it over here onto the document. So we'll read from here, but at the same time, you guys can also look at some of the pictures, and we can look at them also after we finish reading as well. Let me see if my Verbling chat is going to work again. It's not. Okay, so my Verbling chat's not working, so I'm going to have to use just the group chat with everybody here. So if people are watching, sorry about that. My Verbling chat's not working. Okay.
Right, because mine is not working.
Oh, yours is not working either. Okay, I know they were trying to do some integration stuff. I don't know. You know, every now and then Google on their part changes something, and then Verbling has to find out about it, and then they might have to do some kind of updates or something to their software. So sometimes that's the problem while they're working on that.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Well, at least we have the group chat. That works. So just before we start to read, I just want to go over. This was new to me. I didn't know that this was happening. I was just looking around for things, news, and interesting things. But this is kind of a big deal, it seems. Democracy activists plan to disrupt Hong Kong is starting to work. So this started a couple of days ago, maybe, or this weekend, I guess. And so as you can see from the pictures, thousands of people, looks like mostly students, maybe, I don't know, are sitting. They're basically, it's like an Occupy. So if you guys remember, like Occupy Wall Street, that kind of thing happened. It's reminiscent of that, and we're going to read about what it is they want and why they're doing that. And then Chow, you probably have possibly more information, or at least more historical background, so that we can understand what's happening here. So you can provide that.
Some sort of.
You know some things. Okay. Well, let's start reading. And if anybody is out there and you want to join us for this hour, then of course you're welcome to do that. We're going to be reading, going over some vocabulary, and then discussing this timely event, which is happening right now. Okay, democracy activists' plan to disrupt Hong Kong is starting to work. Thousands of pro-democracy protesters continue to block Hong Kong's streets this morning, forcing some of the city's biggest companies to ask staff to stay home and prompting the territory's central bank to set emergency plans in motion. After police fired tear gas at Occupy Central, protesters on Sunday night in Hong Kong's Central Business District, demonstrations spread overnight to at least 3 other busy districts, spreading Hong Kong's police force thin. Okay, Chow, why don't we start with you, and you can read that.
Sure, including the title, right?
Yes, sure.
Democracy activists plan to disrupt Hong Kong is starting to work. Thousands of pro-democracy protesters continue to block Hong Kong's streets this morning, forcing some of the city's biggest companies to ask staff to stay home and promoting the territory's central bank to set emergency plans in motion. After police fired tear gas at Occupy Central protesters on Sunday night in Hong Kong's Central Business District, demonstrations spread overnight to at least 3 other busy districts, spreading Hong Kong's police force thin.
Good. I just going to point out maybe a few grammatical things, but this apostrophe is here because it's the plan of the democracy activists, and because it's plural, you put the apostrophe after the S. So just if you guys are paying attention to that kind of thing, for if you want to do that in your own writing. So the democracy activists' plan to disrupt. So to disrupt there is to, you know, they want, usually everything's going along, everybody goes to work, but if you want to make a disruption in it, you want to stop that. You want to, usually activists want to disrupt something to bring attention to their cause, they want to get some attention from the media, from the people they're protesting against, maybe, so that, you know, kind of wake them up and say, hey, look at us, we're here, we have something to say. So disruption is often a part of a protest because you're trying to get attention. So to disrupt Hong Kong, and so the plan is starting to work. All right, so we have pro-democracy, so pro meaning for, so they are for democracy. And they continued to block. So they're blocking the streets, as we can see in the pictures here. This means that, you know, cars cannot go on the streets, so they're being blocked because people are laying down in the streets. And so it's forcing some of the city's biggest companies to ask staff, their workers, to stay home. So the companies are being forced. They have like no option. You're going to have to stay home because you can't drive to work or get to work. And so the companies are being forced. They use that word forced because they don't really have too many options there. And prompting. Prompting the territory, so this area of Hong Kong, the central bank to set emergency plans in motion. So this is the expression, to set something in motion, to get it going. So if you're prompted to do something, it means like, okay, this happened, so now I have to do this other thing. The action, the protests, prompted the central bank to start doing this thing with their emergency plan. So they have to set this plan in motion so that they can respond. And then let's see. So the police fired tear gas. So that's kind of common these days at protests. The police have this, chemical tear gas that they fire. We could also say spray. They spray tear gas as well. But they fire. They actually shoot it out of some kind of gun or something, and then it goes farther distances and then breaks up and spreads the tear gas everywhere. All right, they spread overnight. So that just means they got bigger and they moved out like their locations. So they're spreading to other districts as well. So not just the main one where they started. And so this is causing the police force to be spread thin. So to spread thin means now, maybe there's just a small amount of police in each location. So it's spread thin rather than thick, so rather than having a bunch of police there's just a small amount of police in each place. Exhausted students napped on sidewalks and in the center of roads, shared food, and sang songs. Students with garbage bags moved through the crowd, picking up cigarette butts and other litter, while organizers cleared public crosswalks so that pedestrian commuters could get to work. The students were joined last night by thousands of other recruits who said they'd been drawn to the protests after seeing footage of police tear-gassing students the night before. If a group of students is expressing their opinion in a peaceful way, I think we should support them, Anthony, a 27-year-old marketing executive, told Quartz. Okay, so, hi, Jacopo? I see you.
Jacopo. Hi.
Hi, Jacopo. Welcome. All right, well, we're just getting started, and so it's going to be Anatoly's turn now, and we'll add you into the round as well. So, Anatoly, you can read those two paragraphs.
Okay. Exhausted students napped on sidewalks and in the center of roads, shared food and sang songs. Students with garbage bags moved through the crowd, picking up cigarette butts and other litter, while organizers cleared public crosswalks so that pedestrian commuters could get to work.
And the next one?
I can't see.
There you go.
Okay. The students were joined just night by thousands of other recruits who said they'd been drawn to the protests after seeing footage of police tear-gassing students the night before. If a group of students is expressing their opinion in a peaceful way, I think we should support them, Anthony, an 27-year-old marketing executive, told Quartz.
Okay, good. So exhausted just means tired, fatigued, really worn out. There's different ways to say that. Exhausted. So they were napping. So they napped on the sidewalks. They were sleeping. To take a nap just means to fall asleep for a little while, get some rest. And then you can imagine they were in the center of the road, so in the middle of the road, and they were sharing food, singing songs. This is interesting. They're picking up the cigarette butts, so they're cleaning up. So they're making sure that the streets are clean still, even though they're protesting. So that's they probably put that in there because that's not usually typical of protests. Protesters don't usually care about the cleanliness of the area. But organizers are being careful, it sounds like, and they're making sure that the public crosswalks are clear. So they cleared them. So this is the verb to clear. They cleared the public crosswalks so that pedestrians, so people who are walking, pedestrian commuters, they're walking to work, they could get to work. So the crosswalks are where people walk across the street like at a stoplight. So they're being polite, it sounds like, and letting people go by, not bugging them. Let's see, they were joined, so more and more people came to join them, to support them. Recruits, this is a noun here, but you do recruit people, so you can use it as a verb too. So to recruit other people to come and join you, that means you tell them, hey, come on, come out, help us, support us, show, we want more people in the road. So that's what a recruit is, somebody who got recruited, who was asked to come, or somebody who maybe just even got inspired, like they're talking about once they saw footage. Footage is what you see on the news, for example. So if they show a little video of the police tear gassing the students, that's called the footage, the media footage, news footage. So they saw that, and so people wanted to come out and support them. And the quote here by this marketing executive guy, he says, if they're expressing, so if you express your opinion by talking or by doing some kind of action, and of course so far it's been done in a peaceful way, so there is no violence happening, then he says we should support them. So he wants to support peaceful protest. The stated aim of some demonstrators to bring one of the world's most important financial districts to a standstill until demands for free elections are met seems to be working, at least partially. Companies including Ernst & Young and CITIC told their employees to stay home. The city closed schools in several neighborhoods and stores closed. Branches, offices, and ATMs of more than a dozen banks have been temporarily closed because of public disorder, the Hong Kong Monetary Authority said in an emailed statement, and the HKMA has activated business contingency plans. Over 200 bus routes have been either canceled or diverted, and several metro stations near protest sites were either closed by officials or barricaded by protesters. Okay. Alex, and we have Ken. Hi, Ken. Welcome. Okay, Alex, you can read those two paragraphs.
The stated aim of some demonstrators to bring one of the world's most important financial districts to a standstill until demands for free elections are met seems to be working, at least partially. Companies including Ernst & Young and CITIC told their employees to stay home. The city closed schools in several neighborhoods and stores closed. Branches, offices, and ATMs of more than a dozen banks have been temporarily closed because of public disorder. The Hong Kong Monetary Authority said in an emailed statement, and the HKMA has activated business contingency plans. Over 200 bus routes have been either cancelled or diverted, and several metro stations near protest sites were either closed by officials or barricaded by protesters.
Good. Okay. So the stated aim. So you could say the aim or the goal, but when they say stated, it means somebody has made a statement. So some of the demonstrators, maybe some of the organizers, have made a statement about what they're trying to achieve, what their goal is or what their aim is. And so what it is here is to bring Hong Kong, one of the most important financial districts, so similar to like Wall Street, when they did Occupy Wall Street, they want to bring it to a standstill. So this is the expression, to bring something, like a business or something like that, to a standstill. So we use that whole thing, to bring to a standstill. It means to the standstill is nothing's happening. So they want it to stop. So if you bring something to a standstill, you make it stop. Like if you're trying to bring the nuclear power plant to a standstill, it means it's not working, or some other thing that you're protesting. So you're trying to get the attention and just make everything, you're disrupting it to the point where it can't work. That's the standstill. It's still, there's nothing happening. And so they want to do this until their demands for free elections are met. So this is what we read a lot if you're talking about protests or even hostage situations or something like that. The demands need to be met is the idea. So to meet their demands, to do what they want you to do, which is to hold the free elections. So this plan, this idea of doing this, seems to be working at least partially. So at least partially means somewhat, maybe not completely. They haven't said, okay, we're going to have free elections now, but they are making these companies do other things. They have contingency plans, emergency plans, and as you can see, this is the area is coming to a standstill because people are needing to stay home. That means they're not going to work. The city is closing schools, so the schools are at a standstill, and several neighborhoods have stores that are also closing, so that those businesses are also at a standstill, meaning they're not open for business. Branches and offices, so branches are kind of the same thing as office. You have local branches of like banks or something, so those different branches, those different offices are temporarily closed, so at least for right now, due to public disorder. So disorder is like kind of when the population is a little bit out of control and it's kind of chaotic. They have to make some plans for how to deal with it. So they're closing businesses for now. Let's see, has activated. So when you activate something, it's you put into action. So they're activating their contingency plan. So usually we have like plan A and plan B. So plan A is when everything's going along just fine, but then when something happens, you have a contingency plan. It's the plan that you do next when you have some kind of situation or emergency. Bus routes, just for pronunciation, I want to mention that you said it fine. You can say this word either routes or routes, so either one is acceptable and used. They've been either canceled or diverted. So diverted is when you change the route. You go somewhere else, so you skip over that area. And some of the metro stations were closed and or barricaded. Barricaded means like when you see the protesters, maybe, I don't know if they have a picture here, when you set up some kind of, yeah, this one right here, they barricaded it. So this is called barricading, when you put something there to block it so that nobody can get by. So obviously makes it very difficult to do what you need to do. That's a disruption. Okay. Normally, bumper-to-bumper traffic was non-existent in the early hours of the morning. Within 30 minutes of markets opening, Hong Kong's Hang Seng Index was down more than 1.6%. Response in China has been swift. Public discussion and images of the demonstrations are quickly being scrubbed from the Chinese internet. Instagram appears to have been blocked in mainland China, and discussion of protests was scrubbed from the microblog Weibo. Chinese news organizations have been instructed to delete any information on the Hong Kong students violently assaulting the government from their websites, although the state-owned China Daily, which publishes in English, carried a lengthy account of the illegal assembly and unauthorized sit-in that spun out of control. Okay, Jacopo.
Okay. Normally, bumper-to-bumper traffic was non-existent in the early hours of the morning. Within 30 minutes of the market's opening, Hang Seng Index was down more than 1.6%. Response in China has been swift. Public discussion and images of the demonstrations are quickly being scrubbed from the Chinese internet. Instagram appears to have been blocked in mainland China, and discussion of protests was scrubbed from microblog Weibo. China news organizations have been instructed to delete any information on the Hong Kong students violently assaulting the government from their websites, Although the state-owned China Day, which published in English, carry a lengthy account of the illegal assembly and unauthorized sit-in that spun out of control.
Okay, good. All right, so lots of words in this one. Bumper to bumper traffic. That just means like bumper. You have a bumper on the front of your car and a bumper on the back of your car. So one bumper in the front is up against the other person's back bumper. So it's just crowded. That's what it means. Very crowded traffic was non-existent. So there was no traffic that morning because of all of the protesters in the streets. And the index was down. The index is a listing of a bunch of different stocks, usually. And it says the response in China has been swift. So swift means quick. They've been doing things quickly to make sure that the greater Chinese population doesn't really hear about this, I guess, or they don't hear about it in a certain way. So public discussion and images have been scrubbed from the Chinese internet. So scrubbed from, you think of scrubbing when you clean something, you're scrubbing it. So they've taken it off, basically. Like they're cleaning it, and they're taking off all this discussion and the images of the demonstrations. They're taking them off the Chinese internet. So Instagram, which is about pictures, it seems that they're blocking it in mainland China, so they're not allowing it. And again, scrubbed from a blog, so information about the protests is not being allowed. And they're deleting any information about the students, basically what they're doing. Illegal assembly and unauthorized sit-in. So apparently unauthorized means that they did not get authorization or permission to have a sit-in. A sit-in is a type of protest where you just sit. So it's like what they're doing in this picture here. They're just sitting down peacefully protesting, drawing attention to their demands there. Spun out of control. So to spin out of control means everything goes out of control or they lose control. So they're talking about that, although it doesn't look like that's true. Okay, so currently the top story on the English language version of Xinhua, China's state newswire, is about praise for President Xi Jinping's speech about reunification with Taiwan. That point of view seems to be absent in Taiwan itself, where Taiwanese students are now holding a sit-in at the Hong Kong, I don't know if that's 2 times, Hong Kong Economic Trade and Culture Office in Taipei in solidarity with Hong Kong. Okay, that's the last paragraph there. So can you get that last paragraph?
Currently, the top story of the English language version of Xinhua, China's state news wire, is about praise for President Xi Jinping's speech about the unification with Taiwan. That point of view seems to be absent in Taiwan itself, where Taiwanese students are now holding a sit-in at the Hong Kong Economic Trade and Cultural Office in Taipei, in solidarity with Hong Kong.
Okay, Chow, you're laughing at that. All right, so the top story. So the main story of the English language version is not, that's what they're basically saying, it's not at all having to do with these protests, but instead they're praising. So to praise somebody means to give them kudos or to say they did a good job, they're supporting, and so they're praising his speech about reunification with Taiwan. So I didn't even know that was happening, so maybe Chow can tell us about that. The idea of reunification is that that country will become part of China again, Taiwan. All right, so that point of view seems to be absent. So in Taiwan itself, they're not talking about the reunification. They're instead talking about what's happening in Hong Kong, and so now Taiwanese students are also holding, so that means they're also doing this, so holding a sit-in means they're doing a sit-in at the Economic Trade and Culture Office in Taipei in solidarity with. So in solidarity means in support of or supporting the students in Hong Kong. So that's the picture we saw on the bottom there. Okay, before we discuss this, does anybody have any questions specifically about the language, the English, any words or things you want me to explain or talk about? Nope. Okay, so I'm assuming you guys got the main ideas of this story. So, Chow.
Sorry, teacher.
Yeah.
Set in motion. I don't understand before.
Oh, okay. To set something in motion means to get it started, to start it. So these protests started, and it prompted the central bank to begin working on their emergency plan, to put into motion their emergency plans. Does that make sense? To set in motion means to make something start happening.
Okay.
Yeah. So because the protests are happening, the bank had to start working on its working with, I should say, its emergency plan. So they have an emergency plan already, and now they have to put it into practice, start using it. So that means to set it in motion. Yeah. You can set lots of things in motion. It just means to start something, you know. Okay. So,
And
yes. Yeah.
could you please explain the paragraph which started with normally?
Okay. Normally. Yes.
Normally, and in the middle, Hong Kong's Hang Seng index was down more than 1.6%.
Okay.
What is Hang Seng?
Okay, so, well, I'm imagining, I don't know for sure, but I'm imagining that it's similar to something like in the United States we have Wall Street, you know, we have a market, the New York Stock Exchange. So I'm assuming that it's something like that. So what it is an index is a list of businesses.
Oh,
so
okay.
yeah, it's a list of big, like for example, we have the Dow Jones Industrial Average, and we have like different mutual funds that are index funds and things like this. So basically, the only thing, unless you really know about the different stocks and things like this, when you read an article and it mentions something like this, it just means that trading is down. So trading in the market is lower. So it's down more than 1.6%. So that just means that usually that means that there's like less confidence in the market and people are being a little more careful. So that's kind of the idea that you get whenever you hear that, you know, the stock market is down or the index is down, or here you might hear on the United States news something like Wall Street is up or Wall Street is down. So it's just talking about the level of trading, how many trades are happening in the market.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And that's here in this thing, that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to bring a standstill to the market. So they're wanting to disrupt this market to try to force their demands for free elections. So it's one way to bring attention to what you want to happen in a big way, because people care about money, you know. So the markets get a little bit crazy. All right. Now, Chow, since you're our resident Chinese person here with some information, what is it true? Have you heard about this at all before?
Heard it a lot.
Okay,
Yeah,
but
I've heard it a lot.
did you hear about it in China or through the internet, like other sites that most people can't get to?
Again, I don't need to view other site, because in the Weibo, it's a microblog, and this article mentioned that
yes,
because there are some information which haven't been deleted by the official, so I can. It's not 100% deleted, so I can saw some news, and some of my friends are talking about that. So I know most of what's happening there, and why do they do that, something background information.
Yeah.
Because there is a promise that the mainland of China made, that the Hong Kong can have a free election in 2017.
Okay.
But I think the 2 months ago, and the mainland of China just announced a new a promise, something like that, said that you cannot have a free election, and the free election, they say that you will have the election, but the election is limited. that is not from all the people, but it's just a small group that decided by the mainland by the Communism Party. So and
Uh-huh.
the Hong Kong people feel like, oh, we were cheated by the government of mainland China, so they decided to protest for
Mm.
the free election.
I see. Okay, yeah, this article didn't even tell us that. So it doesn't give us very much of the reason why they're doing the protest. It just explained what's happening on the ground like right now. So what you're saying is they're actually protesting something that was already promised to them, and so it's kind of been taken away in a sense.
Yeah, because the language that the government was using is some kind of blurred or it's not clear. So when
Mm-hmm.
the time is close, that the Hong Kong people feel anxiety, anxious about that. So that will the promise be true? And just 2 months ago, the government said that, oh, you will just have a somewhat partial free election or limited election. So now they
Okay.
knew that. So the protest.
I see. Yeah, on this link that I just clicked, it says that it sounds like the Beijing, Beijing as representative of mainland China, is trying to dismantle Hong Kong's cherished one country, two systems model. So the idea that Hong Kong does belong to China, but it's a different system. And it sounds like
Yeah.
China doesn't want it to remain a different system.
Somewhat.
Something like that? Yeah. And people who live in Hong Kong want to maintain that different system.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Okay. Ken, had you heard about this yet at all? Is this something that is in the Japanese news?
At first I found this news on my Facebook when Chinese friend posted BBC News in English, and after that I checked the news in Japanese newspapers online. Yeah, the reason was written in that articles, in these articles. Yeah, and yeah, all of a sudden, the election policy changed, and it seems like Chinese authority trying to control that election to take advantage of mainland China.
Yeah.
Even though they promised a free election, in
Even
the
though they were
past.
in the past, yeah.
When Hong Kong returned from Britain to China. Yeah.
Yeah. So would you say that the protesters are justified in protesting this?
Maybe I read the one books about the old book. Maybe it was published right before the Hong Kong returned to China. And yeah, such kind of thing maybe it should be protest. But according to the book, people in Hong Kong are very scared about what happened next in the future. So yeah, some people are skeptical about that promise, and maybe now people begin to think, oh, it might be true or something like that. But I was wondering, only the students protesting this kind of thing, because subject is always students. How about
Well, students have time sometimes. People have to go to work and make money.
In Japan, to late 60s, yeah, student was a kind of demonstrate like this on the street and for the political issues.
Yeah, it is interesting because protests are often student-oriented or led, or you could say a lot of the protesters are students. But a lot of times when you're a student, it's when you have time to think about things. Once you get into something like a full-time job and you have kids, maybe a lot more is at stake, which means like if you get caught or you have to go to jail, you might miss work, you might get fired from your job. So you have a lot more possibilities of having, we say, negative repercussions. So that's like a practicality of why some people, adults, don't often protest, because they're afraid of losing, money, their job, whatever, that type of thing. Whereas students usually have more freedom and less to lose, you could say, perhaps. I don't know if Chow would agree with that. He's very busy, but so Alex, I'm going to get to you, Chuck, because I want to hear your opinion, but I want to hear everybody else's opinion too. So, Alex, I don't know if you know much about the Hong Kong-China situation, but in general, what do you think about these protesters when you read this article?
Mhm. I don't know too much about the relation between China and Hong Kong.
Yeah.
I only know that in the past, Hong Kong was colonized by um,
Britain,
Britain,
England. Yeah.
England. Yes,
Mhm.
but
Mhm.
uh, I I I haven't understood the the reason why all these people
Mhm.
are making this sitting.
Okay. Well, what Chow just told us is that so it happened a while ago where China took back control from Britain of Hong Kong, and so now they say they promised that when they made this transfer, part of the deal, I believe, was that Hong Kong could still remain Hong Kong in the sense that it was a more democratic system. And so here we see where it says one country, so China, but two systems. One, having free elections and more democratic, whereas the mainland China is still communist. And even though they've had, more open economy, I think in terms of the political system, it's still very much controlled by the Communist Party. So now what Chow said was that China is saying, okay, well, instead of having free elections in 2017, you're not really going to be totally free, but the Communist Party is going to kind of control the situation more. And so they don't want that. They want to have free elections, not elections that are manipulated by the Communist Party. That's the idea, I think. So they're protesting because now they probably believe that this is going to further erode or eat away at their freedoms, and eventually maybe it's just going to be like every other place in China, which is probably not what they want because they've been living under a different system that at least these people prefer. So, yeah.
Okay, I understand.
Yeah, so it's kind of like a fear of your freedoms being removed or taken away from you. So that idea. Hmm.
So the things are that different between China and Hong Kong now?
Yeah. Yeah, so right now Hong Kong is part of China, but it's apparently being allowed to have its own political system that is different than the regular Communist Party system that rules in China. Yeah.
Okay.
So these kinds of things are in history. You have countries and they increase their boundaries and then their boundaries get smaller, and then now Hong Kong got back. China got Hong Kong back from Britain. But it's kind of like you lived under the British with a different democratic system, and a lot of people don't want to give that freedom up to go into the Chinese system because of what it means to them in their lives. So, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's a difficult problem.
Yeah, it's difficult. Like something like the European Union wasn't exactly the same because a lot of people, you could choose, like Spain could choose to go into the European Union or not. It wasn't like the European Union was coming after Spain and changing their whole system, political system, power system or something, right? So it might be similar. Let's see what Anatoly thinks. Anatoly, this is something maybe similar to what's happening in Russia with the former Soviet Union countries. Russia seems to want to pull back some of those territories as well. I'm thinking of Ukraine. I don't know. What do you see any similarities there?
It could be partly the reason could be this one, but also I am thinking about other example.
Okay.
Look to, for example, Catalonia,
Uh-huh.
who decided to vote for independence, and before that Scotland, etc. It is a trend maybe for country or part of country which is located in very good place, which have many resources, and people were more wealthier than in other part of country.
Yeah.
It is a trend to think about what could happen, why they think they could live better in separate circumstances. And maybe it could be reason. I was in Hong Kong a few years ago, and I remember that it is living there is expensive enough,
Yes.
but level of life is high also. And I think they used to live their life, and they are thinking about future. They don't know what could happen in the future. I know that in China level of life also improving now,
Yeah.
and but they lived, I mean, these people, students or citizens of Hong Kong, they used to live in a different society. It's a very different society during socialism or capitalism. And maybe they are afraid of being involved in big economics of China.
Yeah, certainly. Yeah, definitely. You said all those things were true. You know, Hong Kong is definitely a different economy. It's a very wealthy area, and they don't want to give that up, I think. And they're talking about it in terms of democracy, but in a lot of times democracy kind of goes hand in hand with also having a more open economy, so that it's not a planned economy. So you have free elections to vote for politicians, whether or not they're corrupt or not, we don't know, but also it goes along with, you know, having a free, or not completely free necessarily, but an open market instead of a planned economy where you have the government making the choices about the money, you know, that kind of thing. So Chao, what you're saying some things in the chat. Exactly. Okay, right? Yes. Okay, so what is your opinion? You have some opinions,
Well,
I know.
yeah, about the democracy per se. Well, actually, I don't fully believe in democracy. I think democracy can be dangerous, and the thing that I don't agree with the Hong Kong students were doing is that, because I don't think there's no such thing like a peaceful protest, because we saw in the article that they occupy the banks and they put something to make the traffic very bad. That is not peaceful. That is violating others' property right. So I think the democracy movement must be respect others' property right, and democracy sometimes can be the mob dictatorship. It's just one step. It's like ignore
Like
the
mob rule or something?
minority. Yeah, it's a mob rule. Ignore the minority,
Uh-huh.
and so it's like I remember, Milton Friedman always say something about this. He said that the democracy is just that 55 people and decided to shut another 45 people. So, well, I think the more important thing is to protect the individual's liberty, not the democracy.
So,
Okay.
well, the thing that they're protesting and what they want to happen is they want the free elections. So from your point of view, then how should a person protest, or how should they make it known that they want something else from their own government, like they don't agree with the government?
Yeah, that is very technical question and difficult approach.
Yeah.
Well, they can do anything they want to inside their own property, in their house, in their company, or they can do like Gandhi do. They will do fasting. These things that don't hurt others. But there are lots
That
of
doesn't bring much of attention. They want to. The purpose is to disrupt, to bring attention and get some kind of action happening.
yeah, I know, but the other way, but people don't talk about other ways. When people think about to change things, they always think to go on the street and protest. But there are definitely other ways, like some people or some famous people are doing like to fasting or to starving and or to do some other real peaceful way, not hurting others. There are lots of debates on that, whether democracy is a good idea or not, but I don't think they should occupy the street to violate others' property right.
Hmm. Whose property rights? I mean, if it's a city, the city owns the street, but the city is made up of the taxpayers, so presumably the taxpayers own the city, the streets.
Yeah, that's correct. That's exactly correct. Because these just small people, they cannot represent other people. Maybe other people don't agree with the students are doing. So that is the problem. They own the part of the place, but they don't own the place.
It's not
It's,
owned by one individual or something. It's shared. It's a shared common
yeah,
space.
yeah. That is problem about the common ownership. So the books I'm reading and the school I'm reading is more like I think I may become a anarchist in 2 years, in 1 year, and maybe after reading some books from some anarchists.
It all depends on the
I'm
books
now,
you read.
yeah, I'm a fan of Ron Paul, and just nearly I just figured out that Ron Paul is actually a anarchist. Anyway,
Not exactly. More a libertarian.
I will show you a video about that. He's anarchist in
Yeah,
hiding.
in hiding. Oh, he's like an anarchist in hiding. Okay. All right, Jacopo, what do you think about these protesters? And maybe Chow kind of opened up the discussion a little bit more to even what is protesting kind of an effective way to have your voice heard? You know, is it peaceful? Is it violent? Is it a good thing to do, or are there other ways to have your voice heard?
Yes, I read something about the protest in Italy,
Yeah.
and I read with peace
Yeah.
protest. That's correct.
Yeah. Peaceful
Peace,
protest. Yeah.
peaceful protest for take more democracy and free election.
Right.
I can say that in Italian is no there isn't more attention about this clash, this clash,
Mm-hmm.
and I think so. It's better. It's good. I think I support this manifestation, and I think the guys
Mm-hmm.
of Hong Kong they are good. They are. I support them because it's important to live in a democracy
Mm-hmm.
and to can choose who govern us and who make the law.
Right.
It's
Yeah.
the first things for the life for the good life.
Yeah.
Because in 2014 Hong Kong is a very rich zone. It's they have many things, many money, but they haven't the freedom.
Mm-hmm.
They can't talk about something. They can't talk about the government, the law, homosexual or Tibet or many things, and it's not good. It's it's bad. It's I
Yeah.
don't say the other synonymous, but that what I think, what I thought.
So you
Yes.
you support people protesting for democracy to make sure that they have the right to vote.
The right shoes, yes.
Okay.
Yes, it is the right shoes, yes.
Yeah, I think it's funny. I'm looking through these Twitter posts here with pictures, and this person said, "Please don't pick our puppets for us. We'll pick our own puppets." So I don't know if you guys understand that, but the idea is, you know, don't let the Communist Party put people into power as puppets, as people that they control, but we'll pick our own puppets. So we want to do it, even if who we choose ends up being just as corrupt as the Communist Party officials, at least we chose them. So it's kind of like that idea of freedom, of having choice at least.
Yes.
Yeah. Right. Chow, what do you think about that? The idea of at least, even if the guy you chose turns out to be a loser, at least you had the freedom to do it rather than imposing, you know, being imposed on.
Yeah, I agree with this sentence. I agree with the idea that the Hong Kong can choose their own president. I think that is better than the government of the mainland to choose. I think the government of mainland are evil and they are not correct to appoint a president for Hong Kong. I think if they choose it, even through a democracy or free election, that is much better than the appointed by the Communism Party. But what I was criticizing is just approach they were doing is not correct. It's valid others. Yeah, but I think it would be better if they have the free election than what is now.
Yeah, I think, you know, a lot of people, I think a lot of people agree, like, it's frustrating experience to be blocked from going to work, so it's definitely an impact on some people's lives, but it seems like in the history of the world, people haven't come up with too many other really good ways that get the attention of people in power, because, you know, by definition, the people in power, they have the power, they have the ability to use the police force, they have the ability to do things, and the people, they don't. I mean, you could vote every now and then if you have the chance to vote, but other than that, it's sometimes hard to get your voice really heard and listened to, not just you know, ignored, basically. So, I don't know, Anatoly, what do you think in Russia? Do people do people have other ways to get their voices heard besides protesting in the streets?
I think we can see different explaining of voices. But about your previous question, after crisis in Ukraine began. Before that, I believed in honest Western media, mass medias. But after I started to read what they are reading about Russia and Ukraine, I know what happened there and here, and I am totally changed my opinion about freedom of Western media. And I don't know about this case. Maybe it is the reason which we discussed is true reason, but also I know that we can read in very famous media sources something and comments which is not always true, in my opinion.
Yeah, and that's one reason why you certainly can't always believe what you read in the newspaper or on the internet, but sometimes it's nice to be able to look at pictures, like on Twitter, you know, and other places, and see what the people on the streets are actually saying. So to try to get more of a first-hand account is what we say. instead of an interpretation by a news outlet that may have an opinion of their own, you know. So.
Agree, but from this article we didn't recognize the reason.
We didn't, yeah. It was just telling us what's happening.
About voting, about reunion with Taiwan.
Right.
Two reasons, and we don't know which reasons.
Exactly.
And also, I think the reason could be just the economic situation, like we observed in Catalonia last time.
Mm-hmm.
More rich part of country compared with less rich.
Yeah, a richer part of a country that doesn't want to support the poorer parts of a country. Right. That's a theme. Mm-hmm. Okay, guys. Well, thanks for coming, and I have another class coming up, so I got to go now. But thanks for coming and reading. It's interesting. Lots of stuff always happening around the world.
Bye-bye.
Okay, take care, everybody.
Thank you very much. Bye.
Thank you.
All right, bye, guys.
Thank you.
Bye, ciao. Thanks.